Popes aren't usually elected while their predecessor is still alive. In fact, it hadn't happened for 600 years. But Pope Francis's succession of Pope Benedict XVI in 2013 was the first indication that things at the top of the Catholic Church would be a bit different. As an Argentine cardinal, Jorge Mario Bergoglio would become the first pope from South America, the first Jesuit pope, and the first pope to have an Instagram account. He was also the first to take the name Francis, in honour of St. Francis of Assisi, who devoted himself to a life of poverty.
En la segunda, cuando ya salí elegido, se levantó, me abrazó y me dijo, no te olvides de los pobres. Son momentos fuertes eso. No lo esperaba. Bueno, después como una paz, una tranquilidad muy grande. O sea, esa sana inconsciencia que Dios da en los momentos difíciles, ¿no?
Francis's homage to his 13th century namesake began immediately. On the night of his election, he took a bus back to his hotel with the cardinals, rather than take the papal car. He was also the first pope in 100 years to live outside of the palatial papal residence, choosing instead to live in a simple apartment in the Vatican guest house. Born in Buenos Aires to Italian-Argentine parents, Jorge Bergoglio qualified as a chemical technician and had jobs in his hometown as a bouncer and a janitor. He became a Catholic priest after recovering from life-threatening pneumonia and having part of a lung removed. His years as a priest coincided with his homeland's dirty war, a military dictatorship ruling Argentina through terror during the late 70s and early 80s. Bergoglio was appointed Auxiliary Bishop of Buenos Aires in 1992 and Archbishop in 1998. His outreach to the vicious miserias of Argentina's capital earned him the nickname the Slum Bishop. As Pope, Francis wrote an encyclical calling for greater care for the planet and stated that developed nations had a moral obligation to assist developing nations in combating climate change. He presented it as a gift to climate change skeptic Donald Trump on his visit to the Vatican as US President in 2017. Francis met the survivors of clerical abuse on his 2018 visit to Ireland and apologised for Catholic Church sexual abuse cases. Likewise, in 2022 in Canada, Francis apologised for the Church's role in the abuse of Indigenous children. It was not just apologies for the evils of church sex abuse that elicited mixed responses. On the perennial issues facing Catholicism, many felt Francis went too far, others not far enough. Francis formalised women's roles in the Catholic Church, but refused to ordain women as priests. He pushed for greater openness and inclusion of LGBT+ people and for the worldwide decriminalisation of homosexuality, but was opposed to same-sex marriage and spoke out against gender ideology. Francis's more humble and less formal approach to the papacy drew people towards him, sometimes bringing out his very human side. Francis's commitment to interfaith dialogue saw him reach out across sectarian and religious lines in defence of the weak and the persecuted, as in this meeting with Iraq's top Shia cleric Ayatollah Sistani on his visit to the country in 2021. Even in his second decade at the head of the Catholic Church, there was very little let-up in his schedule, but his more frequent public appearances in a wheelchair and his hints at resignation were a reminder of Francis's advancing years. Conservative yet progressive, Catholic with a big and a small C, an historical figure in the social media age, Pope Francis was the bouncer from Buenos Aires who rose to the top of the Vatican and yet kept his feet firmly on the ground.
I'll get that little piece of dandruff off.